centers across the consulate's jurisdiction: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Delaware, the largest Jewish population outside of the state of Israel. New York marks its fourth foreign assignment as an Israeli diplomat. Prior to this posting, he has served as deputy head of mission at the Embassy of Israel in Athens, Counselor for Culture and Science of Israel in Berlin, and Deputy Ambassador of Israel in Albania. Born in Tel Aviv in 1984, he obtained a BA in Political Science and Communications from Tel Aviv University and earned an MA in Law from Bar Ilan University, proficient in Hebrew, English, and German. He is also a skilled DJ who enjoys playing house music. He is married to Israeli lawyer Guy Arad, with whom he is lovingly raising 2 children. And let me also introduce at this time our executive director, Steve Portnoy, who will be in communication with tonight's guest and co-moderate this webinar. So, Stephen.
Thank you, Larry. And I want to thank a person that you're not going to see, although maybe you could flip on the camera for yourself for a brief second. Steve Sherman from our West Coast, who is what we generally refer to as our Wizard of Oz. Steve is the man behind the curtain, and he will be switching the camera angles around and working things out. I want to personally thank Tsach for joining us this evening. I know that he started his assignment here in 2023, and I believe that Men of Reform Judaism was actually one of the first groups that he reached out to. And I know that he's got a mission, and I believe he's a good person for that job, but being an Israeli diplomat at this time is probably not an easy job. So I'm going to flip this over to the Deputy Consul General and let him speak for a while about what's on his mind, and then we'll have a conversation with some questions and answers. So, Tsach, it's yours.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you, Stephen, for making this conversation happening. And I'm very happy to be here. I'll try to speak. I'll try just to give you at the beginning a sense of what the consulate is doing, and afterwards, or maybe through or during the introduction about the consulate, I'll also refer to some of the challenges, the great challenges that we are facing as Israelis, as Jews, as Israeli Jews in the United States, as American Jews in the United States. So the consulate is, as you mentioned before, is covering 5 states: New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and almost 40%, or a little bit more than 40% of American Jewry is in these 5 states, and also quite a big Israeli community. I mean, former Israelis, maybe second generation of Israeli Jews that have emigrated, or some, just people who are on relocation for some time. Very, very big Israeli and Jewish population. And also in New York. New York is the home for several, like the headquarters of several big Jewish organizations, rabbinical institutions, and so we also work with and have a very important dialogue also with the organizations themselves, congregations, and communities. The consulate is headed by the Consul General, and he's basically overseeing the whole diplomatic work. And underneath it's me, I'm the Deputy Consul General, and we also have three different departments. So Deputy Consul General is I'm a career diplomat. I'm not a political nomination, and I navigate and overseeing the budget and all the political activities, diplomatic activities. Also in my portfolio is political, which means elected officials, and Jewish affairs. Jewish affairs is both Jewish communities, but also Jewish organizations. And Jewish affairs is combating anti-Semitism, safety of Jews, also the dialogue between Jewish communities and Israelis and the government. And you know, sometimes it's not very easy. Just to give you a sense, I started my position here, my post in New York City, on July 23, and it was just before October 7th, and my agenda was totally different. So we had the Prime Minister coming to New York City for the UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, and there were people outside protesting the judicial reform, and that was the main thing. And you know, the people that were outside, they were criticizing the government, the prime minister also, who was sitting there on one hand, but they were people who cared, and that was the most important thing, because the alternative, which is, and we've seen that when people are becoming indifferent of the state of Israel, of what's happening, this is where danger is, because you care about something or someone you love, and and then you get mad if you don't agree, and then you criticize, and it's a good thing. And this is also part of the dialogue, our dialogue with the Jewish communities. We also have three other departments in the consulate covering public diplomacy, which is our relationships with NGO and civil society and different organizations, and also academia and different communities like LGBTQ, etc. We have a spokesperson who covers media. Well, New York is, you know, the home for the biggest and most important media outlets in the world, and culture. Culture is New York, of course, needless to say, is a very important cultural hub, and our cultural relationships, which is one of the things that we are very proud of in our connections with Americans, is an important pillar of our relationship. So this is basically the political work, the diplomatic work. Of course, we have consular work. Many people think that the consulate is actually doing just consular work, which is visas and passports, etc., and taking care of Israelis that got lost somewhere. But no, we have a lot of diplomatic work that is different from a consular work. And since October 7th, our agenda totally changed. It is very hard to, let's say, realize our first goal as a mission, as a foreign mission in the United States, which is to bring people together, to create relationships, to nurture existing relationships, and which is positive agenda. And we had to deal with some other great challenges, like public opinion, and our relationships with electeds, and what we've seen happening on the streets, protest, and fighting to make sure that the Israeli narrative, or I have to say the truth, is out there and is being heard. And it's very hard. I know Stephen asked me to put some focus on public diplomacy, but maybe we can get there when we get the questions. I'll try also to give you, just before we get deeper into public diplomacy and PR war, we can do it through the questions. But just to give you a sense of the um, geostrategic challenges that Israel is facing at the moment, or maybe the status right now. So, of course, we start with Gaza. In Gaza, the war is, we hope that the ceasefire will hold. We're seeing that Hamas has no real intention bringing back all the hostages, the deceased ones. There are currently 13 bodies that Hamas holds, not just Hamas, but also other organizations, but they are coordinated. Maybe this week we'll see 4 more bodies being returned, but they will still hold 9, which we estimate they know 6, the location of 6 of them. It's very, very fragile. The Americans, taking a very close look on what's happening, trying to make sure that the ceasefire holds, but it's a challenge because Hamas does not want to go to the next phase, which means demilitarization. It also has some requirements from Israel, but the demilitarization for them, as they see themselves as a resistance organization, resistance against what I do not know. October 7th didn't happen in Gaza. It happened in Gaza envelope in Israel, in a territory that is not disputed. And we'll have to see how things evolve. There are a lot of tensions and small incidents, not very small, for a ceasefire. When Hamas is killing just today 2 Israeli soldiers in Gaza, this is not a ceasefire. They're violating the ceasefire. So this is very, very fragile. But the Americans are very much involved. In Lebanon, we are seeing that Hezbollah is not willing to disarm, trying to get into an agreement with the Lebanese government. Not successful. They also see themselves as resistance organization against whom we don't have, I would say, substantial territorial dispute with Lebanon, just several points on the border, which I believe they will not stand in our way if we want to have peace with Lebanon. But Hezbollah must disarm first. And there are a lot of difficulties for the Lebanese to get there. There's an agreement, but we do not see the implementation. We don't see them getting rid of all their missiles. Unfortunately, not yet. That's why Israel is still active and following and making sure that the ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah is being implemented. Syria is, it's complicated. El Julani or Ashara is there, and we see also that the Turks are very much involved in what's happening in Syria. There is an opportunity, and our hope is that we can find the way for understandings with the Syrians. I go a little bit more east to Iraq. During the last 2 years of the war, we saw also Shiite militias that have fired missiles and drones, not very much missiles, but drones at Israel. At some point, they stopped, which is a good thing. Also, but this is also very fragile. A little bit more southeast is Iran. Iran is working very, very hard every day, rebuilding its nuclear capabilities and also its ballistic missiles capabilities. The effect of a barrage of 1,000 missiles that was part of their plan for elimination of the state of Israel in 2027. They had a very organized plan together with the ballistic missiles program, nuclear capabilities that would provide an umbrella to what they want to do. And also what they saw happening on October 7th, they thought, okay, it works very well. Maybe we can do it also from Jordan. And they have been training some local militias to penetrate Israel from the eastern border, thousands of terrorists from this border. That was their plan. That's why also Israel had to act also against the ballistic missiles program, and let alone against the nuclear program. Unfortunately, we see that they're rebuilding their capabilities in both channels. And the Houthis in Yemen, also their capabilities have been, I would say, decreased, but they're a terrorist organization, and they're holding the state of Yemen in its throat, and basically turned it into a terror state. And it's very difficult because you need leverage on them, and they have the capability to stop and to hurt the international shipping and the economy and chain of supplies. And they have, because of that, they have a lot of power. For the time being, since there's a ceasefire in Gaza, they are not firing missiles at Israel. But until the last moment, they have fired missiles once a day, 3 times a week at Israel. Again, ballistic missiles, drones with the capability of causing a lot of damage and killing people, and people have been killed. So this is our regional challenges. The Middle East is never an easy place. Also, maybe I should mention also another front, which is Judea and Samaria. There's always unrest there, and the Iranians are trying to send weapons all the time and provide them with different military capabilities. We also saw some small factories and workshops for rockets. And there were also some attempts to fire rockets from Judea and Samaria at Israel lately, which is a very, very dangerous development. So we are keeping our eyes open on what's happening all the time. And when there are imminent threats, we act. I would say these threats are sufficient for now, I would say. And maybe we can go to the questions and get more deep into the issues that you would like me to elaborate on.
Okay. There's quite a lot there. I'm just kind of waiting for our screen master to switch this over, but I'm going to deviate from my script for a little bit. Just very quick question. As the Israeli representative in Albania, are you aware of the story that took place in World War II where the Archbishop came to the railway station where the Nazis were loading Jews onto trains and basically said, if you take them, you take me? And 50,000 Jews were turned around and sent home.
So there are many stories in Albania. Actually, many stories of bravery and just Albanians who saved Jews. And actually, yes, Albania is the only European country where, continental European country that the number of Jews after the war was greater than before, which is it's amazing. So yeah, there are a lot of amazing stories from World War II that happened in Albania, saving a lot of Jews. I know some different numbers because they were not able. Not a lot of Jews could make it to Albania, but the ones who came there, and also thanks to the BESA code, as they call it, they took a lot of Jews and hid them in their homes, in the villages, and the Jewish people owes the Albanians in that sense a lot because they saved many Jewish lives.
Yeah. Not getting anything out of this, but if anybody is interested, There is a film called The Optimists by a gentleman named Jackie Comforty, Comfort with a Y. His folks were in a band by the name of The Optimists and tells the story of the saving of the Jews in Albania. And it's a great trivia question. You know, what Nazi-occupied country during World War II saved all its Jews? I'm going to say 95% of the people you ask could not answer that question and would not think of Albania. So tell me, what does a typical day look like for you when you get into the office? What do you do?
Yeah.
What's
So
on your plate and how do you manage?
yeah. So what is actually very fascinating about my job as a diplomat is that I know how my day starts. I never know how it ends because there's always something happening, whether in Israel, in the Middle East, here in the United States, or on the news. So you have to act and you have to react. And sometimes this is something that is planned, like whether it's a commemoration ceremony or a yahrzeit or something that we celebrate, or sometimes this is just some development in the war, or something has happened, or an anti-Semitic attack, or a very important meeting that somebody is calling and would like to hold because somebody wants to promote something or to do something together, or if somebody is asking for assistance, wanting to travel. I mean, let's say a senior elected official would like to travel to Israel and would like to have our assistance, and it's so varied. I mean, the variety of daily tasks that an Israeli diplomat has. So as I mentioned, I'm covering Jewish affairs and elected officials, and you know, as they say, no news is good news, and unfortunately, here in New York, and we always have news if it's about Jewish affairs, you know, like anti-Semitic attacks or some developments or anti-Semitic statements, not necessarily incidents, not necessarily physical attacks, and also with electeds. So we talk to them. We making sure that we have good relationships, at least personal. We're trying to understand and trying to um, help them understand better from what's happening from an Israeli point of view. It's not always easy, but we're doing our best. We're doing our best. So my day, I can have my meetings with different people, attending events, but at the end of the day, uh, what I planned is I have my program for the day, but in between, there's always new tasks and new things that you have to, again, react to or act.
Okay. So politically, you have elected officials as part of your portfolio. Normally, I don't think a New York City mayoral election would be national news, but I think in this case it has become, with the somewhere around 1,100 rabbis signing on to one letter, and then there is a letter in opposition, et cetera, et cetera. Have you met with all three of the major candidates for mayor?
Um, Actually, I haven't met. We haven't met with them, with neither, actually. Um, I think what is really we don't intervene in domestic campaigns, and we don't we don't have statements. We don't. That's a domestic issue, and we definitely do not intervene. Our position, and also I would say our most precious strategic asset in the United States is bipartisanship, is um, being able to talk to both and making sure that maintaining the support from both sides of the alley. Um, so no, we haven't met with him since the campaign. It's funny, or not funny. I remember when I came on August, I was reading the cables of my predecessor, and I did see this name, Amdani, but it was also about Israel, and I saw the name because he's still an assembly member, but he was obsessed with Israel even back then, and he said he was the one who initiated the law bill about not on our dime, which is basically trying to take the tax benefits from Jewish nonprofits who support Israel, which is in New York. I mean, this is it's vicious. It's really vicious, and I think what we're most worried about, me personally, is I think that he has he was able to normalize. I mean, it was happening also without him, but he's definitely part of this movement of normalizing anti-Semitism. And by anti-Semitism, I mean when he can say that Jews or Israelis have the right for self-determination in one way or another, saying it or supporting it. Like the Palestinians have the right for statehood there, but the Jews do not have the right for self-determination somewhere between the river and the sea, and have a sovereign Jewish state that has the right to live in security and peace. But Palestinians or Arabs, they do. That's a problem. When he's not able, and that was part of the discourse, that he was not condemning Intifada. I would not use this word. No, you understand exactly what Intifada means. Intifada means violence against Jews. And what do you mean you can't, you won't condemn it? I mean, you should condemn violence, period, against any group. So he's with his very viral TikTok reels on Instagram. He's doing a very good job normalizing anti-Semitism and being so obsessed with Israel and bringing it to his campaign and putting it in the center of his campaign. And he's not making me. I'm not a constituent. I'm a diplomat. I'm going to leave New York at some point next summer, by the way. But as an Israeli Jew, he makes me feel insecure in New York City. I don't want to think about like Jewish New Yorkers that have lived here. Just a second. I think I have a problem with the light. That's it. Sorry. So yes, it's a really worrying development, and the fact that he was not able, even just to take back some things that he said. It's just always maneuvering. That's the problem. His rhetoric is dangerous. It's dangerous, and yes, and it's a problem. I have no other way to say that.
Not necessary to say it in any other way. I Thank you for expressing that. I want to ask you and frame it in the political context. In your day-to-day discourse or weekly, how do you balance the liberal Jews on one side, reform, and the paradigm on the other side, when often our wants and needs go in diverging directions?
Yeah. So the most important thing is, in my view, is to maintain the dialogue. I'm talking to everyone, mostly, and I would like to hear and listen what people have to say. As I said, even if it's criticism, if it's like things that people in different communities do not agree with my government, my job is also to reflect it back to Jerusalem. So that's one thing. So I listen, and I listen carefully, and I also present the Israeli side. What is happening? Why we're seeing what we're seeing? What is the truth? And I have a lot of difficult conversations with both sides. Yeah, and also, but I have to tell you that I see a lot of, especially after October 7th, a lot of there are some people, that went a little far from, let's say, that being a Zionist is in the middle. So I saw some people and some, not groups, but individuals who went like distance themselves from Zionism. But I have to tell you that from what I have experienced and saw, most of the people, most of the Jews have come closer to after October 7th, being more Zionist, closer to each other, connection to the state of Israel, also, and a little bit more, I would say, unified in many aspects because of the danger that is out there, and the things that we've been seeing on the streets, not just of New York, but also colleagues here from on the West Coast. So um, for me, the most important things to your question is to maintain a dialogue, even if we have hard conversations, and we did have hard conversations, even harder conversations prior to October 7th, by the way.
Okay, so hard conversations. The WCC, World Zionist Congress, is going on, I believe, as we speak. One of the topics has been calls from certain members of the Knesset to annex areas of the West Bank, and it's disturbing to a number of us here in the diaspora. Does that message get relayed through channels so that those in leadership hear it?
Well, first, Israel is a democratic country, and there's also there are democratic processes in Israel, and of course, members of Knesset and electeds can say and should say what they believe in and what they are supporting. Whether American Jews criticize that or not, it's okay. I mean, and as I said, also my job is to reflect what's happening here on the ground. And when I talk to people, when I talk to different communities, and I'm being asked questions, and people also telling me, we believe it's a bad thing, or this is a good thing, or this policy is maybe in some of its aspects, is a little bit problematic because of ABC. So yes, we definitely convey the message back to Jerusalem. But moreover, we have also, it's not only discussions with me. We make sure also that when we have Israeli senior, whether politicians or senior officials coming to New York City, and they're in the region or visiting the United States, that they have these exact conversations with Jewish leaders, with Jewish organizations, and from different streams. I'll just share with you. There was planned visit of a very senior Israeli official who on this upcoming weekend. Unfortunately, because of now what's happening in Gaza, it was postponed. But on his agenda was also meeting with Jewish rabbis from different streams of Judaism, from Orthodox, conservative, Reform, and even Reconstructionist. So it was hard. It was important for us, for me, to bring everyone to the same table, so the decision makers and policy makers from Israel can hear the different views. Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of the topics that is discussed amongst Jews in the diaspora, at least amongst those that I'm familiar with mostly, Israel or Jews are 2/10 of the world's population. 2/10. But yet we comprise 22% of Nobel Prize winners. Why do we continue to lose the public relations battle? We're smart. What? I know that's an open question,
I think that a disturbing statistics is that is the proportion of the Jews in the United States, which is maybe less than 2%, but violence and against Jews, or the percentage of the crime hates against Jews of all crime hates, I think it's around 60 or 70. So this is disturbing. This is the problem, and it also answers your question, because what we see now is a combination of exploding anti-Semitism, which is comprised from what we call the classic anti-Semitism. So Jews control the media. Jews have a lot of money. Jews know how to do money, and more modern anti-Semitism, and it's like a horseshoe. You see it from the right and you see it from the left, and they all meet here. I wanted to say, you have like the two extremes, and you have the extreme right and extreme left, and they meet here like as a horseshoe, but it's not. Then that's the problem since October 7th, that this is not only the extremes that meet here in their anti-Semitic views. It goes way deeper, and unfortunately it has been there all the time, and now it's exploding. And the problem since October 7th is this anti-Semitism is being normalized, and if we don't call it out, if we don't act, the problem is going to get harder and deeper.
Okay, so a case in point, one of our board members, Charlie Needleman on the West Coast, asked that we hear conflicting statements about the food supply in Gaza. And we hear a lot of conflicting statements out of Gaza. But can you shed some light on how the truth is put out and how it's distorted and how it affects the process of peace?
So of course, it depends on what time of the war. The problem was never about Israel getting the food in. As we speak, I can share with you afterwards the updated numbers, but it's around 600 trucks a day. So this is our share of part of our part in the ceasefire deal. So 600 trucks a day are getting into Gaza. The problem before was the distribution. The numbers were not, sometimes they were as high as 600 trucks a day, but even then, there was a problem with the distribution because Hamas was looting a lot of the food. The UN agencies that were operating and still operating in Gaza were not cooperating because they wanted to have the monopoly. Let's not forget that UNRWA is basically Hamas because these are the same people. And when people tell us, no, this is UNRWA, this is not Hamas, this is Hamas because it's the same people. You saw it also, by the way, on October 7th. And there's a horrifying video of Hamas terrorists who is kidnapping a body. And I think it was from Kfar Aza. And he's taking the body in his car, and everything is filmed with CCTV. And when you check the plates and when you check his identity, because it's easy because he's filmed, then he's an UNRWA employee. So during the day he's an UNRWA employee, or maybe during the night, I don't know. And the rest of his time he's a Hamas terrorist. You cannot distinguish. Going back to the humanitarian situation, food and trucks and everything. So the problem was always the distribution. You saw that the situation in Hamas tunnels for Hamas militants and terrorists, I had this word militants because they're not militants, I'm sorry. They had food there and they looted it, and they took a lot of food that should have gone directly to the population. And this is part of their strategy to create a humanitarian crisis. So if Israel lets a lot of aid and food and things that are needed in Gaza but they do not distribute it, or making sure that it's not getting to the people who really need it. So you have then this is how you create a humanitarian crisis. That's why when the GHF entered into Gaza, what actually they were doing? They were distributing what Hamas didn't want to happen. And what Hamas did, Hamas was trying to sabotage this effort of distribution in order to create this humanitarian crisis, or to maintain some kind of level of humanitarian crisis that will increase, again, pressure on Israel, and their leverage on Israel in negotiations would be higher. So that's the thing with the aid in Gaza, and that's why when people are talking deliberately and intentionally and using the word starvation or famine. So yes, of course, there were people that were hungry in Gaza, and maybe there still are. Not denying it, but talking about intentional starvation, when besides the moral obligation of Israel, it's even strategically false, like to have people starving in Gaza. It makes no sense, and it definitely do not serve the goal of ending the war. and it just and that's why Hamas kept the situation, tried to keep the situation severe.
I want to delve a little deeper into humanitarian issues and global challenges. But before I do, you mentioned the 2027 Iranian plan for the eradication of Israel.
Mhm.
Honestly, I probably get 40, 50, 60 emails a day from various news outlets, Jewish outlets, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that I have ever heard that. Could you expand on that a little bit
Yeah.
without
So
giving away any state secrets?
no worries. So um, what they plan actually, and that's why I mentioned the year 2027, is um, to achieve capability or to have it's a capability to manufacture hundreds of ballistic missiles per month, which would give them by 2027 an arsenal of thousands of ballistic missiles. And their ballistic missiles are heavier, are more precise, and very lethal. And now you saw when you have the United States and you have Israel and you have some other Mediterranean, Middle Eastern countries, I would call it a coalition, that work together to intercept a barrage of 300 missiles. You still have 5% that hit, and 5% of 300 is a lot of missiles that can create a lot of damage. And after some days in the 12 days war, they managed to learn from their experience and they improved their capabilities and they learned how to bypass all these layers of protection that Israel has. So now just imagine that they have thousands and they have the capability to fire a barrage of 1,000. Let's say that we can have the same statistics, 95%. You still have 50 missiles that hit Israel, but heavy and precise ballistic missiles that hit Israel. And that's a barrage of 1,000. Can do 2,000, 100 missiles, ballistic missiles. Together, they can create also the effect of nuclear bomb. Put it together with penetration to Israel from invasion. Sorry, penetration, invasion to Israel from the eastern border, and then having nuclear capabilities, military nuclear capabilities that give this umbrella and deter some other actors in the region from intervening or protecting Israel. This is an existential threat. And this was their plan for 2027. They got the appetite for it after October 7th, when they saw the ground invasion of Hamas. And that's why they were training thousands of terrorists also in Jordan. By the way, this danger still exists in Jordan, in Syria also. Maybe Houthis that will be sent to Syria, and some other things that maybe I should not give them ideas or. So that was the plan. That's why it was so important that Israel, that we did what we did last June.
Okay. So Let's switch to the humanitarian and global. Climate change, environmental sustainability. Israel's been referred to as a startup nation. How is Israel leading in those areas of climate change and environment?
Yeah, so after October 7, it was difficult. We had first survival, then climate change, but somehow the economy survived and was strong and resilient. And I think it's a good sign because also our economy is heavily based on innovation and startup companies. And we saw still, investments in Israeli startup companies in different areas, not just climate change, but also healthcare and basically everything that brings to you know if you use less energy and you reduce emission, so it's green, so everything is environmental and it's a good thing. So, and we saw that people were still believing in what we have to offer, which is good things and good technology for the benefit of the world. So yeah, so you see it in there are startup companies as you mentioned that are dealing with that are focusing on food tech, meaning that having some alternatives for protein, because protein is getting um, some alternative for protein for the obvious reasons, and also creating energy in a way that green energy in a way that would reduce emissions with different chemistry and yes, tell me, I can be more specific. I mean,
It's just I was thinking in particular of the balloon fire bombs that came across from Gaza that were setting areas on fire, and how that was responded to, and what health challenges that brought forward, and how Israel deals with, in essence, health issues. I believe it's a world leader in a lot of areas, but I'll let you expand on that and Israel's challenges with
okay,
pandemics.
no, okay, I thought you were referring more to desalination because
That
no,
too,
no.
that too. I
So,
mean, making the
so the,
deserts grow, we know is a miracle.
yeah, but it's now it's more important than ever, because desalination, because climate change and everything that's happening. And there's a drought, not just in Israel, but in all surrounding countries. We are providing a lot of water to Jordan, and of course that's because we are self-sufficient and we have we've developed very good technologies for desalination. So, and also reducing and improving the reducing the carbon emission every year, because this process is consuming a lot of energy on one hand, but creating water. So I wanted to refer to it because desalination and water is an issue that when you have governments cooperating with each other and with different in the neighboring countries, this is a stabilizer. This is a thing that contribute. This is technology, for example, that directly contributes to stability in the region. Just as an example, with Jordan, also we're providing gas to Egypt, which is very important. So this economic relationship with Egypt again are a factor of stabilization. Also, Iran has a very hard, very difficult problem of drought, think the prime minister has said that we are willing to assist with that, also to the Iranians if their regime stops, threatening us with elimination. Could be good,
I
beneficial for both sides.
yes, I think I've read that during the I don't want to say war, but during the war with Iran, that the
It's a
nuclear
war. It's a war,
yeah,
yeah.
the nuclear facilities were bombed, et cetera, et cetera. But the big trade issue, the oil export import lines were kept. They were not really attacked or bombed. And would you say that that goes to the importance of maintaining backdoor channels, perhaps? But the economy is an equalizer?
No, in that case. The answer is no, and I'll tell you why. Because the Iranians have targeted Israeli plants, power plants, and other strategic um, facilities in Israel, not necessarily military, but also, just to keep the state functioning. They were targeting these, whether it's energy or water. So basically, we could have done that. But I would suggest that it could have been two things. One, this is the oil refineries, etc. It's very easy to attack them, but it's also civil. So it can be perceived as targeting more the Iranian people. Rather, it can be perceived. And also, you cannot expect what the Iranian response would be in that case, would have been in that case. And the response would not necessarily be against Israel, but against some other countries in the region, in the Gulf, that maybe didn't want to see this kind of development happening because of the threat on them from Iran.
So I think we have time for one or two quick questions. Are there any misconceptions about Israel you would like to address?
You tell me what, and I'll address.
I'm
You'll tell me which, because there's like
it's
thousands.
as you would say, it's complicated. So then how about last thoughts that you would like to share?
Well, I'll tell you. I'm very happy for these conversations and opportunities to. It's less of a conversation, but I assume that your questions represent what is important and is of interest to the audience. And I hear from your questions that in the bottom line, people care about Israel. In that case, I mean, I'm talking about Jewish communities. Yeah, people care about Israel, and they want to see Israel safe, thrive, and that is still a very important. It's the light again. Just a minute. I don't know why it happens. Okay. And people would like to see Israel thriving and safe for the Israelis and safe for the Jewish people, because what we've learned and we keep learning is that the security of the Jewish people in the diaspora is connected with the security of the state of Israel. And if Israel is not safe, then Jews all around the world are in danger. And when I see that people care, and that's what I learned from your questions, and people have a lot of interests, even if it's about policy, even if I can hear some criticism in your questions, that's, as I said, a good thing, because it means that people care, and you care about somebody you love.
Yes, the diaspora does care, Reform Jews care, and between you and I, we have the cone of silence over us now. Whatever you need from us that I can do, you know that you can count on me and us, men of Reform Judaism. And I want to sincerely thank you for taking this time and meeting with us and talking with us, and hope to see you in person soon.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to thank you for the opportunity and for the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And any questions, you can forward them to me, and I will make sure that they get answered.